Good morning, Cougars. Today we are going to be adding pages 15 and 16 to our interactive student notebooks. So the first thing that you want to do is add your table of contents, 15 and 16. The title of these pages are a fraction review, and today's date is November 2nd, 2021. So I'm just going to jump right forward to page 15 and 16 and I'll zoom out a little bit. You can see that on the left-hand side I have a practice page for you for adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Adding and subtracting mixed numbers. And on the right-hand side we have a foldable for fraction review. So I've already got this filled in, but I am going to talk you through it. So for this fraction review, just some vocabulary for you. The number on top is called the numerator. And did you know that this bar in the middle called the vinculum? I hope you have fun saying that like I do. Vinculum is the bar. And the number on the bottom is the denominator. If you don't have a denominator, we've got no problem. Any number can be made into a fraction by adding a denominator of 1. There's 3 different ways that you can show negative fractions. You can have the negative out in front. So for example, negative 1/2 has the negative over here. It could be negative 1 over negative 2 or positive 1 over negative 2. All 3 of these are equivalent in value. So speaking of equivalent fractions, just a reminder on how to handle those. If you multiply or divide the numerator and denominator by the same number, you get an equivalent fraction. So I started with 2/3 right here. And maybe I should even add another line here in the middle to separate my examples. I started with 2/3 here, and I had decided that I wanted my denominator to be 21 for whatever reason. It might be useful. So I knew that I had to multiply 3 times 7 to get 21. And what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 2 times 7 gives us 14. 2/3 is equivalent to 14 over 21. In this example, I started with 9/2, and I wanted my numerator to be 36. And I knew that I had to multiply 9 times 4 to get 36. What I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 2 times 4 is 8. 9/2 is equivalent to 36/8. 100 over 25. And I wanted my numerator to be 4. Notice how I used black and orange here. Well, how did I make 100 into a 4? I divided by 25. And what I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 125ths is equivalent to 4 over 1, which this happens to also be called a unit fraction because our denominator is 1. This one I worked a little bit backwards. I had 8 as a numerator is equivalent to 2/5. So we had to figure out what the denominator was. Well, I knew that 8 divided by 4 is 2, so something divided by 4 was 5. And I knew the opposite was 5 times 4 gave me 20. If you need to, pause and add your notes. Reducing fractions. So a fraction is fully reduced when the only number that divides evenly into both the numerator and the denominator is a 1. And the method that I chose here was what I call chunking. I did it step by step. I did not find the greatest common factor. I knew that both of these were even numbers. And here I'll draw another line to separate this. And so since they're even numbers, I could divide them both by 2. 120 divided by 2 gave me 60. 112 divided by 2 gave me 56. Still both even numbers, so I kept going. Divided by 2 gave me 30 over 28. Still even numbers. Divide again by 2, both the numerator and the denominator. 15 over 14. Well, 14 is an even number, 15 is an odd number, The only number that divides evenly into both 15 and 14 is 1. 42 over 56. Both even numbers, so I'm just going to go with what I know and divide them by 2, both the numerator and the denominator. That got me 21 over 28, and I noticed right away that both of these are factors of 7, so I reduced the numerator and the denominator by 7 to get 3/4. And I knew that that was completely reduced because the only number that divides evenly into both 3 and 4 is 1. Adding and subtracting. We can only add and subtract fractions if they are written with the same denominator. Step 1, rewrite as equivalent fractions with the same denominator. Step 2, add or subtract the numerators. Step 3, the denominator stays the same. Step 4, simplify if possible. And so that's the practice that we're going to be looking at specifically today. Let's keep adding notes. Pause if you need to get caught up. Multiplying fractions. We can multiply fractions with any denominators. We do not have to have matching shoes, as a teacher once told me. We do not have to have the same denominators. But you can't multiply them as mixed numbers. They have to be just a numerator and just a denominator. So any mixed number should be changed into an improper fraction first. Then multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, simplifies if possible. So you could see here that I have 3½ times 2 1/3. That is equivalent to 7/2 times 7/3. I multiplied the numerators to get 49 and the denominators to get 6, and I reduced it to 8 1/6. Pause if you need to get your notes caught up. Dividing fractions. We can divide fractions by rewriting as a multiplication problem. So again, you have to make sure that you don't have mixed numbers. You have to have improper fractions. You can only have a numerator and a denominator. So we can divide fractions by rewriting as a multiplication problem. Step 1, that first fraction stays the same. Step 2, division becomes multiplication. Step 3, flip, or a more mathematically correct way to think of this, take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Step 4, follow the rules for multiplication up above. We're going to be doing some more examples in the next coming days on multiplying and dividing fractions. Pause now and get caught up on your notes if you need to. If you have any questions, come and see me. Go Cougars!